Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. In just a bit, I am headed out the door to check out the new horror film, Bone Lake. Bone Lake is directed by Mercedes Bryce Morgan and is starring Alex Rowe, Maddie Hassan, and Marco Pagasi. This movie tells the story of a young couple that rent an Airbnb for the weekend to just kind of get away from things and try to rekindle their relationship. They're dealing with some personal issues in their relationship and they just need some time to get away and just be alone with themselves. But what happens? Well, wouldn't you know it, the pesky Airbnb host double book the weekend and no one can get a hold of this host. Oh no! It looks like wackiness is going to ensue. This film comes to us from Bleecker Street, and I'm actually kind of excited to see this movie because I've seen some thrillers, psychological thrillers and everything from Bleecker Street, but I haven't really seen anything from them that I would consider an actual horror film, so I am looking forward to checking that out. And this also seems to be one of the first, or at least it's the first movie I've seen that's directed by Mercedes Bryce Morgan, and I'm always intrigued to check out a new director, at least new to me director, and she looks like she's gonna put out one hell of a little film here, to be perfectly honest. I'm really thrilled by this little trailer that I watched for this film. But you know what, guys? It is enough of me sitting here jabbering on. It's time for me to get out the door because I need to go see Bone Lake. Welcome back. Just getting home from a film that happens to be called Bone Lake. When I was leaving and driving there, and I don't know why I didn't think about it earlier, I just thought about just how silly it sounds, Bone Lake, and what that can mean. And yes, it is brought up in the film. It's even in the trailer. I'm like, yeah, I don't know why I didn't think about that when I was making this intro, but oh well, whatever. So anyways, guys, just getting home, and I'll be perfectly honest with you. I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't necessarily scary in my opinion, but all in all, I had a really good time. So let's get this party started, shall we? We're going to get things started with, I'm going to call them mixed feelings this time around because I don't necessarily feel like these are negatives towards the film, but this is stuff that I think that could sit in some people's craw the wrong way. And then we're going to move into the positives to end the video on the ever so important high note. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is just the scare level of this film. Now, going into this movie, I really didn't know what to expect, especially coming from Bleecker Street. As I've said, I am not really too awful familiar with horror movies put out by that studio. In fact, I'm not even 100% certain if they've actually put out anything that would be considered hardcore horror, and in my opinion, they still haven't. This film does have some very creepy, some very suspenseful, intense moments, but at no point in time did I ever feel like I was being scared, because I've always considered a movie that consider itself a horror film, the movie itself needs to be trying to scare me. Now, I do believe that there is some subject matter and some things that I feel that some other people are going to find extremely uncomfortable and very unnerving, but when it comes to someone who has watched a ton of horror movies, who is soaked in this type of genre, it's pretty light. This is some fairly light horror, but I do think that that's a good thing for some crowds, because we're coming up on spooky season. Good old Halloween is right around the corner, and this movie is kicking off the month of October, and so I feel like this is a really great movie for people that really don't want to see a hardcore horror film that's going to scare the ever-living pants off of them, but I do think that this is a very solid film for more of a beginner or somebody who likes a little light horror. This movie also, if you're a gore hound, it doesn't have have a whole heck of a lot of it in there, but there is enough just to wet your whistle. The film makes you work for it, but when you finally get there, it is definitely worth it. But it's not something that overwhelms the film. There is a little bit of splatter in this movie, there is some blood spray and so on, but it's nothing to the level of other horror films that I have seen, but it does work for this movie, again, keeping it a little bit more light. The movie does have a nice kind of humorous vibe to it. There is a bit of cheesiness attached to this film that could get a little annoying to some people and maybe rub someone a little wrong way a bit, but at the same time, the cheesiness actually plays into something as the film develops, so it does seem to make sense why it seems like there's so much cheesy acting going on at the beginning of this movie. Believe me, it will make itself known on why this is happening. The film itself also doesn't really hide its motives too awful much. When you get into this movie, it really starts to just build the tension, build the dread, and just get right into what's going on here. It doesn't waste your time with building slow tension and all that. It gets right to the point of what's going on, and it doesn't try to really hide what it's trying to do here. It doesn't really try to have much of a mystery attached to it, but at the same time, it doesn't just blatantly show things to you. There are reveals, there are some moments of tension and suspense and all of that, but mostly a lot of the stuff in this film you are going to figure out before it even reveals itself, which again plays into the light horror aspect of this film just fine. Now, what was the fun level? Honestly, I thought this movie was a lot of fun. It may not have been something that I think that the hardcore horror hounds are gonna really enjoy with this movie. I think that they'll have a fun time with it, but I do believe that this is a horror film that falls right there in the middle for just, let's just say it folks, the normies out there. And I'm not doing that as an insult. This was a really well-made film, and I'm directly talking to you. This is a non-horror fans horror movie. If you do not like jump scares, if you do not like a lot of big gross gore outs, this movie is probably going to be right up your alley. Definitely your speed for a nice little creep fest this All Hallows Eve. So let's just get into those positives, shall we? The first thing I want to talk about is the acting in this film. Now, as I did say, it does start off a bit cheesy with some of our characters in this, but as the film develops, you soon find out exactly why they're acting the way they are. And I thought that the actors in this film do an excellent job in everyone's performance. There's not somebody that I would say was outright the best or was putting on the biggest show or anything. All of our actors deliver great performances and extremely well fleshed out and well developed characters. The story, even though it is familiar and something that you've seen before, it is a lot of fun to just watch how this develops on screen. And even though it does kind of play its cards a little early on you, it doesn't ruin anything. There's still a lot of excitement and a lot of fun to be had. And when you get down to those gore effects, once you get there, they look great. This film does rely very heavily on practical effects. I didn't notice any overuse of CGI. There was one scene in particular where I thought maybe some CGI was used for a kill, but all in all, I would say that a lot of everything just lands right into the practical effects department and looks really solid. The intro to this film is also extremely well done. It gives you a great idea of what exactly is going to happen as this film progresses. You start right out at the gate, you get yourself a pretty nice little shocking intro, and not necessarily shocking in the gore and fear route, just shocking. Let's just leave it like that. And there's also some humor that's attached to this film, which I thought was great, again, to toss stuff like that in there for the less horror fans, for more of the normies. Toss in some big tense moments and then have a little light moment to kind of clean the palette a little bit before you go back into some more horrific type of scenery. All in all, guys, I would have to say that this was an extremely solid film in theaters. I think that most people who are not massive horror fans, who just want to see something spooky, scary for this time of the year, are going to get a lot out of this. I do think, however, though, for the more hardcore horror hounds, that this movie's kind of light, and they might not be 100% satisfied at the end of it, but I guarantee you guys, you'll have a really great time. I would have to say that if you're really soaked in on horror and you've got to have your gore, you've got to have your jump scares and all of those things to make a nice solid horror film for you, then this might be a stream it at home. But for everyone else that just calls it fine, it's right there in the middle, all the normies, as I keep saying. And again, I'm not doing that as an insult by any means. This is a perfectly good film for you. This is something that's going to get you out there in theaters this Halloween, and it's fun, it's a nice little romp, and it's not going to scare the pants off of you or gross you out too awful much. But remember, it does build to some pretty gruesome violence. It's just nothing that's kind of throughout the entire film. It just comes at you, you know, as the film builds and such. So anyways, guys, there you have it. This is an extremely solid, get out there, see it in theaters. Maybe if you're a big horror fan and you have someone, a friend of yours, maybe a loved one or something that's more of a light horror fan, this is a great movie for you guys to get out there and celebrate old Halloween with. Or maybe if you just want to see a light little spook fest and have a good time. But in all, I would say that this is a solid theatrical film. It is coming out this weekend, Friday, October 3rd. So get out there, check this film out if you have the opportunity. So there you have it, guys. There is another review in the bag. Thanks again for checking the Film Geek out. If you liked what you saw here today, it spilled a little bit on me. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you could do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.